So appreciate everybody making the time to come out and be a part of things here and just kind of connect with the community. So from the In Time Tech team, we're excited to partner with TM and Annika and the team here to really make a difference here in Boise in the Treasure Valley. And so we're excited today to kick this off. We'll be back here each quarter with a different topic, but getting here with the lunch hour and getting together and getting to know folks. So with that, I don't want to take too much time. My name's Cody Urban, and I'm going to turn it over to Bryan Klein and team today, and they're going to go through and share about design thinking with you. So they've got a great sharing session going on and definitely some interactivity, so be ready to participate and have some fun. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bryan and team here. So Bryan, Karina, Chaz, Johnny, take it away.
Cool. Thank you. All right, thank you.
All right, as Cody said, my name's Bryan Klein. I am a UX UI designer at In Time Tech, and I'm the UX manager there. And this is the team we've got presenting today. Chaz on my right here, Karina and Johnny. They're all also designers, and our hope today is to just briefly walk through design thinking and define that a little bit for you. But more importantly, we want to jump into the thinking part of design thinking. Because there's like a process that you can follow for design thinking. There's some methodologies you can follow, but we want to go a little more meta today, which is how can we shift our mindset or the common mindsets that we approach problems with to a design thinking oriented mindset. And so we're going to jump in and briefly just cover the design thinking process and methodology we use at In Time Tech. There's a whole handful of different ways of executing design thinking, and for us, we use what's called the double diamond process. Really briefly here, so design thinking, what is design thinking? Well, really design thinking is a process, it's a toolkit, and it's a mindset for solving problems. And in this particular process flow, we use the starting point of a problem. Which most of us either we're starting with a problem or we're starting with an idea, and ideas are usually oriented around some type of problem, right? So then we jump into this phase, which we would call the discover phase, where we're doing a lot of research and we're trying to gather as much information as possible around that problem that we've started with. And that kind of reaches a critical mass point in which we have to start really whittling down to what specific issue are we going to target and focus on. Because as you dig into a problem, you'll usually find, wow, it's not just one problem. There's like 12 problems here. And at some point you have to start prioritizing and really defining those problems so you can lay a plan out in order to solve the problem. So that's what we call the define phase, is when we really begin to narrow that down and define it. The next point here is the develop phase, and that's really the fun part. That's the part everybody gets excited about. That's where you commonly see people around a whiteboard and everybody's got ideas or a bunch of sticky notes. And here we're trying to generate as many possible solutions to that problem as possible, so then we can take those ideas and really begin to implement them through prototypes and testing and see which of those solutions will actually solve the problem in the best way. And that takes us to that deliver section. That's where we're actually creating the solution, testing it, and iterating and improving it over time until finally we can deliver a solution. So the first mindset shift we want to jump into when we're thinking about the design thinking process and the double diamond there, that first part was discover, right? It's the research part. And this first mindset shift is really we need to shift from giving the world what we think the world wants to giving the world what they actually want. I just want to pause on that for just a moment, let that sink in. Oftentimes we give people, we give our employees, we give our coworkers, we give the world what we think they want instead of what they actually want. And that can be a huge barrier to success. So when we actually dig into some of the statistics, we'll find that 70% of products and services fail due to lack of user adoption. So that means once we get, we've actually executed on the project, We've created the solution, we've delivered it. 70% of those solutions, they fail because the customers or the users decide that it actually is not solving the problem for them, or the way it solves the problem doesn't work for them. It's not usable or it's not enjoyable. And so we've spent all of this time and effort and energy and money only to create something that people don't want. And so it's pretty common. I mean, if we all can think about some of the quotes out there, if we think of Steve Jobs or Henry Ford or all these other kind of visionary leaders, there's this idea within the industry of innovation that it takes this visionary leader who has domain expertise, he's got this great idea, this great plan, he builds a great team, and they go about creating this product that is going to solve the world's problems. But we have this other set of information out there too, which is like a staggering number of new businesses and startups fail within the first year. Now, why is that? I mean, where does that come from? What's the problem? What's going on here? Oftentimes we're giving the world what we think that they want versus giving them what they actually want, right? So we have that visionary leaders like, hey, this is the plan, this is what we're gonna do. And maybe you've collected a couple surveys or interviewed a couple potential customers, and you think, wow, we've got this solid plan, we're ready to roll forward. So I'm gonna highlight this point a little further by just illustrating and sharing a story with you. And I'm gonna jump into how can we shift to giving the world what they actually want? What's the strategy for doing that? It was late December 2001, and the sentiment of this new tech company was at its highest. The energy around every meeting and press release was palpable. Venture capitalist John Doerr, one of the world's richest tech investors, predicted this company would be the fastest company to reach 1 billion in sales. The company anticipated selling 100,000 units within their first 13 months. They said this technology, quote, will be to the car what the car was to the horse and buggy. Can anyone name this company? Any ideas? I'll repeat that quote. This technology will be to the car what the car was to the horse and buggy. You know the answer. I can't call on you, Joseph. All right, let's see if we can wait for it here. Is it up here? Do you want to see that again, Daniel? The Segway, right? Anyone here ridden a Segway, been on a Segway, seen a Segway? Okay, so Segway. How bad did Segway flop? Well, by 2007, they'd only sold 30,000 units, and this is after they had to recall all the units they sold due to a major software glitch that caused people to go in reverse instead of forward, causing them to fall off and get hurt.
Didn't the founder die on a Segway? I think he died.
I did not hear that, but that only further demonstrates the problem here.
Eric will fact check.
Yeah, we need to fact check that.
Yes, that is true. I just fact checked it.
Oh, there you go. That's crazy.
I was in Boston when it happened.
That's so
Anyways.
So sad.
Wow, that just only adds to the point. So what was the breakdown? What was the breakdown with Segway? Well, again, they gave the world what they thought the world wanted or needed. And had they actually gone out and done what we're going to talk about today is field research and using personas to design and innovate. Had they gone out and done that, they would have found a number of things. First off, people have a car, right, a lot of times. So why would they spend a huge amount of money for this other transportation methodology when there's scooters and e-bikes and all kinds of other things that they could be leveraging that are far cheaper and more effective? The size of the Segway was prohibitive. It didn't really fit well on the road and didn't really fit well on a sidewalk. I mean, there's a litany of issues that you could go through and discover if you simply created a cheap prototype of a Segway and then actually put it in the real world and observed people using it and talked to them while they were using it. You would have discovered all of this. And so it's interesting where, you know, literally some of the best investors in tech were baffled by this breakdown. So the question, you know, becomes how do we avoid this problem? Well, there's this other scenario though where we see products, and Chaz is going to talk about one of these just briefly today, the Waze app. Has anyone here ever seen Waze or used Waze, right? Pretty popular app. Yuri Levine is a huge proponent, one of the co-founders, huge proponent of design thinking. And one of the things with Waze is they had to pivot. They thought that they understood the market, but they found, wow, people are using this product differently than what we thought. And this is a lot of products that go on to succeed. They actually had a failure before they experienced a success, right? Products get launched, they get into the real world, and then you find what the breakdowns are. And companies that succeed are the companies that have enough funding to squeeze out a little bit of time and discover why isn't the product working while watching people actually use it. And so they can make a pivot based on real world examples and usage, and then they can, leverage a new strategy, a new plan, and that's when really great products are created. So the question is, what if we could reverse engineer that whole process, and what would that look like? So for us, we label this process of kind of reverse engineering that, or launching the product before you actually have a product. We call that field research. And the whole idea of field research is actually getting into the world of our potential customers and users of whatever it is we're creating. Now, a lot of times it's kind of like the scientific methodology. We have a hypothesis that we start with, and we've got to hold that with an open hand. It doesn't mean that we know exactly what we're up to, but we have a starting point. So we'll say, hey, I want to create some type of app that is going to make the moving process easier for people. And the types of people I want to interview or talk to are people who have moved recently. And so I'm going to go out and actually sit down with those people and talk to them about their experience. But even better, I'm going to get with people who are planning to move right now, and I'm actually going to be with them through that process in which they're selecting where they're going to move and locating a new house, where they're actually, the day you show up on move day, when they're packing boxes, and you're like an annoying guy with a clipboard who's just like writing everything down, kind of observing. The key idea with field research is to get away from even what people say that they want, because people really, in the end, this is verifiable, people are really terrible at telling you what they want. And people are even worse at telling you what they actually do. Like if I asked you, how did you go about selecting the Netflix show you watched last night? Like, what was that process? You might be able to tell me those steps because it's rooted in something that you just did last night, and I'm asking a very specific question. But if I asked you, how do you do the work that you do on a regular day-in-day basis, you would miss tons of steps in that process. But if you're training somebody brand new to it, you start to, has anyone here ever trained somebody on another process? Don't you kind of reawaken to all the steps you do? You're like, oh my God, I do all of these things? I should get paid more money. Look at all these steps I'm doing every day. Like, this is crazy. So actually getting out there and spending time with people in the real world, watching them do those steps. And from that, gathering that research, we create personas. So if there's one takeaway from this session of how do you give the world what they actually want, I want to encourage you to do field research, figure out what that means and looks like for you, and create personas. From personas, that's where you actually innovate and design from. The persona is basically like an aggregate of all of this information. You go out and talk to 15 different potential customers, and you literally look at their quotes of what they said about whatever product you're testing or interested in testing. You look at what motivates them to use that, what's the problem they're trying to solve, and you kind of whittle that down into this one sheet of paper. This sheet of paper is with you, with the dev team, with the people who are building the physical product, with all of those people. It's kind of like inviting the customer into the room with you while you're creating the solution. So I'm going to go a little deeper on how to do this, and then I'm going to open up for a question. So how do we go about creating personas? Well, literally, we just target, hey, who do we want to know more about? Who are we trying to solve a problem for? And we go get into their world. So say in the case of moving, I already highlighted, I'm going to find somebody who's planning on moving this next week, and I'm going to go show up on move day. I'm going to get into their world. And I'm gonna ask them to tell me what they're thinking as they're doing what they're doing. We call that process the gathering of data. Once we gather that data, we usually go through, if it's an interview or a video, we'll literally go through and transcribe that information and tag it. And tagging is simply saying, hey, here's some themes that we keep seeing popping up. Here's pain points. Here's likes. Here's dislikes. Here's what they wish would be different. And we then synthesize all of that data from, say, 10 or 15 different people into one central spot. And literally innovation and the insights will slap you in the face if you do this right. They will present themselves. If you go about these steps kind of in the right process, they will present themselves. And it's from that place we come up with this persona. So, a key thing I want you to take away. Personas are based on behavior, not opinions, based on what people actually do, not what they say they do. That's a key takeaway here. Thanks for letting me share. I hope you gleaned something valuable from this. I'm going to pass it off to Chaz, who's going to talk about the next mindset shift.
Yeah, thanks for you guys taking time out of your day. And I always love to talk about casting vision, because I really think that gets to the heart of the problem. What I'll be talking about is falling in love with the problem and empathy and the impact that has when you can identify what that problem is. And one of my favorite quotes is from a French aviator and author. I'm totally going to butcher his name, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And he says, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect and gather the wood, to divide the work, and just to give orders, but instead, you need to teach them to yearn for the vast and the endless sea. Because what happens when you have this vision that is caught is that if you're missing lumber or materials, it doesn't matter, because peoples want to ride on the open seas. If you don't have the technology to do it or the manpower to do it, it doesn't matter, because you're going to find a way, because you've caught the vision on riding on the open seas. And so maybe a more modern day illustration is, man, if you want to build a rocket ship or a spaceship, instead of talking about, the fuel loads and the technology that you have or don't have, if you're as old as I am, and I grew up with my dad watching a TV show called Star Trek, at the beginning they would have this saying, to boldly go where no man has gone before, right? And so, I don't know, maybe Elon Musk with SpaceX caught that vision from Star Trek or something. But man, if he doesn't have the technology, then he's like, we'll create it, because we've caught on to that vision that, man, we want to put someone on Mars and go in there. And so building a successful company, man, that's great. Making millions of dollars, providing for your family, that's great. But when you're able to actually look at the end user, if you're trying to solve a real problem, then man, you can actually change the world. And that's where you get from great to epic. And so casting vision to create and make an impact to make the world better is a beautiful thing. And at our company, at In-Time Tech, we have a saying, one of our mottos is win-win or no deal. And so it's not just good enough for us to be successful, but we want our partners to be successful, and we want those around us to be successful, even if they're not a part of what we're doing and they're just part of the community. And so we want to create abundance just globally as well, not just to line our pockets or to be successful in the tech world. And so at In-Time Tech, we have like these dream projects, and we're able to do really fun things like create scholarships for refugees that are here that want to get into tech, or single moms that need to get a better job so they can provide for their families. We'll actually offer like a scholarship to go to Boise CodeWorks, and then they can get like an 18-month internship with our company. And so once again, they don't have to be working with us. They don't even have to be a partner with us. We just want to bless people within the community that is around us. And so we don't want to just focus on getting to the solution as fast as possible, but when we look at the problems that we're trying to tackle, we don't want to get over them quickly. And as Bryan mentioned a little bit earlier, the co-founder of Waze, he's Yuri, he's a guy from Israel. He wrote a book called Falling in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution. If you look at the corners here on the stage, we have these sheets, these stands with QR codes, and so we'll be mentioning different resources. You can scan them, and then that'll take you to either a link or a website for some of the things that we're going to be talking through. And he says, when you're in love with the problem is actually going to serve as your North Star of your journey. Because once again, it creates what Bryan was talking about earlier, just this empathy and getting to the heart of the issue for what's going on. And so we're going to have this mind shift that we're going to switch from, in design thinking, from empathy to insight. And as we're doing that, we never want to lose sight of the issues that we're tackling. And so here, I'm going to give you an example of a problem. And this one, I do a lot of missions trips around the world trying to help people. One of the issues that we see a lot is bringing clean water to impoverished and displaced communities. And so just think about this for a second. And so here's a problem that is really, really crazy, okay? And so the United Nations says that on average, a person walks 4 miles per day. And granted, if you're walking at a regular pace, it takes about 3 to 4 hours just to do 1 mile. Okay, so we're doing 4 miles per day, and that's if you're not carrying a heavy load. Another issue by the World Bank, they stated that there are over 40 billion hours annually of just transporting water and hauling water back and forth. And then this is the most heartbreaking one that you guys are, I'm sure you guys are aware of, is that over 4,000 kids die per day, not annually, but per day due to dysentery and not being able to have clean water. And so what I'd love to do with you guys is, man, take a second, you have sticky notes right next to you, you can write on them, you can just think in your head, but just take a minute or two. If you were to come up with an innovative way to bring clean water to displaced people groups, how would you guys do that? And so jot those down, and then in a minute, I'll ask you guys just to share what those are. What are some ideas that you guys have?
Drilling a water well, closer access.
Okay, drilling water wells in different communities. That's a great idea. Yeah, what else?
Build like a purifying system of some sort.
Build purifying systems, that's great.
Rain collection.
Rain collection, yeah, that's awesome. These are all great ideas. What else?
Dig a canal.
Dig a canal, okay, there you go. When you do the research of what it costs to do all these different ideas, like let's say clean well, digging a well, that costs anywhere between $8,000 to $12,000 per well. When you have digging canals, that's people thought about different pipelines that they can build in Africa or somewhere, and they estimated the cost to be up to around $35 billion to build water through pipelines to all of Africa. So you have certain budget issues, you have certain time issues, and so these are all great ideas. And man, I encourage you guys to all tackle and continue to tackle this because this is still a big need within our world. And so as we are trying to tackle these issues, how can we tackle something that gets rid of the 4 miles, that gets rid of all the man hours, that gets rid of kids dying? And there was a really fun contest put on by Google and Specialized called Innovate or Die. And there's this company named IDEO, who's one of the most world front leaders for design thinking and human-centric design. And they came together, they came up with an idea on how to fight this in something that is a lower budget, that's easier to do, that's not going to impact the environment so much. And through their design thinking and empathy and insight stage of thinking about the end user who doesn't have $35 billion to bring water to all of Africa, they came up with this idea called the aqueduct bicycle. And so basically, this bicycle that they prototyped out, you can cut your commute time significantly down instead of just multiple hours into less than 1 hour just in your commute because you're on a bike and you're faster. They, instead of being able to carry water jugs on top of your head or on your shoulders, they integrated 2 different tank systems within the bicycle so that when you get to your water source, you can just fill it up and you don't have to balance and carry it. And the coolest thing about this is that when you pedal the bicycle, there's actually a filtration system inside the frame of the bike. So by the time you get back from the water source to your village, you're already going to have purified water that's ready to go. And so it's just really cool, like when they start thinking about the end user, man, what's something that can be more cost effective, that can just bless them? Man, they came up with the aqueduct bike. And so if you guys have never seen that, man, do your own research. Really cool story. One of the co-founders of IBO was on the team that designed this. And so here's a picture of what it looks like, kind of the big tank in the back, filtration system, and they have something where you can actually pull a lever and it doesn't make the wheels turn, but it still pumps the filter so the water gets clean through the bicycle. And so now what I want you guys to do is just imagine using this product from the end user. So we're gonna have a couple different profiles that are going to pop up. And so think about a single mom. What are some of the problems that you may face in a rural area, displaced community, as a single mom? What are some bonuses to how this helps you and what else it saves you? But what are also some hurdles that may come up as a single mom using this, using the aqueduct bike? And, huh?
Needs a car seat.
Needs a car seat, all right. So if you have kids at home, do you leave the kids at home? Do you take them with you? Do you throw them on your back? So that's good, I like that one. All right, next one. What if you are handicapped or an amputee and missing an arm?
Safely steering.
Safety of steering, yeah, control, good.
If you're missing a leg or two, having some sort of electrical component to push in, maybe even solar powered.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, power issues. If you don't have legs, or maybe you can have something where your hands crank instead of your legs. Yeah, that's good. All right, what about a child?
Can't reach the pedals.
Can't reach the pedals, there you go, good. Do we have an adjustable seat? What about an elderly person?
Ride on rough roads.
Okay, yeah, physically demanding depending on the road conditions. Cool. So as we are continuing talking just about design thinking, I hope you guys are catching the vision, able just to see, man, it's not just about getting over the problem and getting to the solution as fast as possible, but there really is that empathy when you start to identify the problems, you put yourself in those shoes, you can actually make a product or a solution that is really going to change someone's life, which to me is a very beautiful thing.
Now that we've done the discovery work and have narrowed down and really defined the problem that we're looking to solve, we've empathized with our users, we've done the field work. Now, as Bryan said before, it's the fun part. We get to ideate, we get to explore, we get to think of how many solutions, what can we do to solve this problem, It's our opportunity to ideate and explore different concepts based on the research requirements and refined scope that we came up with in the first diamond. And just like the diamond's shape, we're diverging, we're expanding, we're going wide with our ideas, we're casting our net as wide as we can to really, brainstorm as many different ideas as we can. And this phase, we try not to constrain ourselves too much as we look for solutions and ideas that could potentially solve this problem. And as well as in this phase, we're not only considering the visual and user flow, but also the hierarchy, the information architecture, and how different parts of the experience that we're creating will relate and harmonize together. Oh, whoops. All right, so the phase shift we're doing here is we're trying to move away from, I gotta come up with this one amazing idea, and that's it. But we want to go for as many ideas as possible. We want to shoot for quantity over quality. And why do we want to do this when brainstorming? Let me share a story that can illustrate this. So, on the first day of class, a professor at the University of Florida divided his film photography students into two different groups. Everyone on the left side of the classroom, you guys, would be the quantity group. You guys would be graded solely on the amount of work that you produced. And on the final day of class, the professor would tally the number of photos submitted by each student. 100 photos would get an A, 90 would get a B, 80 a C, and so on. Meanwhile, everyone on the right side of the group would be the quality group, meaning they would be graded only on the excellence of their work. They would need to produce just one photo during the term, but to get an A, it had to be a near perfect image. So, what do you guys think? At the end of the term, which group produced the highest objective quality photos? Was it the quantity group or the quality group?
Quality.
Quality? Quantity? Well, let's find out. At the end of the term, the teacher was surprised to find that all of the best photos were produced by the quantity group. How is this? During the semester, the quantity group students were busy taking photos, experimenting with composition, lighting, testing out methods in the darkroom, and learning from their mistakes. And during this process of creating hundreds of photos, they honed their skills. Meanwhile, the students in the quality group sat around speculating about perfection, having little to show for their efforts other than unverified theories and one mediocre photo, the pressure of that one excellent photo causing them to hesitate. And another example, Steve Jobs was known for his ability to think creatively and come up with innovative ideas. He believed that the key to success was to generate a lot of ideas, even if most of them were bad or mediocre, and then choose the best one to pursue. When Jobs and his team were developing the first iPod, they brainstormed many different ideas for the device. They considered different shapes, sizes, colors, features. One idea that stood out was a scroll wheel that would allow users to easily navigate through their music library. Even after selecting the scroll wheel idea, Jobs and his team continued to iterate and refine the design, experimenting with different materials, colors, button placements, until they found the perfect combination. Jobs' approach of generating many ideas and selecting the best one was a key factor in his success. It allowed him and his team to innovate and create products that were both useful and beautiful. So some of the keys from these examples, it's important to generate lots of ideas during this creative part of the process. So when we go for quantity, when we generate a lot of ideas, we increase our chances of finding a good one. We're more likely to stumble upon a unique or valuable solution if we have a wide range of ideas to choose from. And going for quantity also encourages creativity. When you generate a lot of ideas, you're pushed to think outside of the box and explore new possibilities. And this can lead to more creative and innovative solutions than if you had only considered a few ideas. Generating a lot of ideas can also encourage team members to collaborate and build off of each other and work together to create something great. And also, when you generate a lot of ideas while brainstorming, you're less likely to feel like you need to come up with a perfect solution right away. That pressure of perfection is not present. Just throw out whatever's out there. Instead, focus on generating as many ideas as possible and then refining them and iterating on them until you come up with that best idea. So we know now we want to create a lot of ideas, but how many ideas does it take to come up with one that sticks, a great idea? I'll open it up. How many ideas do you think it takes? 100?
32.
32?
67.
67. Okay. Okay. According to, you guys sitting down, get ready to have your minds blown. According to IDEO consultant Bob Sutton, it takes 2,000 ideas to get to a great idea. 2,000. And that's counting initial brainstorming, iterating, and refining as all separate ideas. So, how do we do this? How do we come up with 2,000 ideas? Oh, there it is. In case you forgot, 2,000 ideas to come up with a great one. Okay, so we need to come up with a lot of ideas, 2,000 maybe, but how do we do this? How do we pluck 2,000 ideas from our brains? Well, I'll share with you guys a little bit about how we try and do it at In Time Tech. So the first thing we do is we turn off the judging part of our brain. The part of our brain that judges both ourselves, like our own ideas, like, oh, this idea is not good enough to share or even write down. I'll get laughed at for this is too crazy, or even judging other people's ideas. Is when we're in critiquing mode, decision-making mode, it tires us out, and it conflicts with the creative part of the brain. So try as hard as you can to turn off that judging part and allow the creative part of the brain to flow. And after we do this, we then abide by IDEO's 7 brainstorming rules, which I have right here. First one, just like turning off the judging part of our brains, deferring judgment. Generating a lot of ideas requires a judgment-free zone. We want to help everyone feel like they can say the idea that's on their mind and allow everyone to build on it. We want to encourage wild ideas. want to err on the more ridiculous, out there ideas. Build on the ideas of others. Much of the value in any new idea lies in the additional ideas it can spark in your teammates or spark in other people. Number 4, stay focused on the topic. We've done our field research, we've defined our problem, and we want to stick to that as we brainstorm different solutions for that problem. Number 5, one conversation at a time. In this space, we definitely want to respect other people and make sure that we're not talking over each other, but giving everyone a turn who needs one. Number 6, be visual. Use whiteboard markers, Post-its, put them on a wall, put them on a whiteboard. And as always, which is the key of what I'm talking about here, is to go for quantity. So we're going to do a little bit of an activity right now. You should have some sticky notes and a pen, either on your chair or next to you. We're going to do a little activity called brainstorming alone together. So the problem statement that we're going to focus on here is, how might we smooth out the moving process? Kind of going with what Bryan was saying before, there's a lot of moving pieces when you relocate or when you move. Maybe it's planning, picking a company, packing up boxes, packing up things. How might we smooth out the moving process? And now for 4 minutes, by yourself, write down as many ideas as you can on sticky notes, 1 idea per note. And if you hit a block, think of what the worst possible idea could be. So for 4 minutes, go ahead and write down your ideas. We're solving the problem. How might we smooth the moving process? You have 4 minutes, ready, go. All right, we're going to come back together now. Thank you all for doing that. So now we want to this is the together part of the alone together brainstorming. So now with the closest 2 to 3 people around you, they're your new team now. You have a team now. The closest 2 to 3 people with you, spend 2 minutes showing and sharing your ideas with each other. So generating a lot of ideas, overall the main point here is that generating a lot of ideas is an important part of the creative process. It allows us to explore new possibilities, collaborate with others, and increases our chances of finding an idea that will stick. So avoid going for the pressure of perfection in one idea, but cast your net wide when you do brainstorming. And don't be afraid to go crazy. So thank you guys, and I'm going to pass it now to Karina.
All right, awesome. I'm Karina. I'm a UX UI designer at In-Time Tech. So thank you guys for coming and participating with us today. Our next mindset shift is going to be moving from perfection to iteration. So something I've learned within design thinking that's not only helped me with my work at In-Time Tech, but also just in life in general, is to become an optimist rather than a perfectionist. So perfectionists, they look to see how far they have to go, and optimists look to see how far they've come. Perfectionists use no but statements, and optimists use yes and statements. Perfectionists are terrified of making mistakes, and for optimists, mistakes are just proof that they're trying and making progress. So moving from perfection to iteration, what is iteration? Iteration is the repeatable process of improving a product in relatively short but frequent bursts. And iteration also inspires confidence and acceptance during the possibility of failure. So it's better to fail fast and know in the near term whether or not you're on the right track than to fail slowly and then make that, discovery later on, kind of like segue. So we're going to be actually putting iteration into action today with a fun challenge. It's called the Marshmallow Challenge. Oh, there's the segue. Missed that one. But so we're going to go into the Marshmallow Challenge. And so this challenge really brings a lot of important lessons on just the nature of collaboration and iteration. So basically we're going to break up into small groups. There's little bags around your chairs, and those have all the supplies that you'll need. You're going to build the tallest structure that you can out of 20 spaghetti noodles, masking tape, and then 1 large marshmallow. So the key is that the marshmallow has to be on top of the tower, and you'll have 10 minutes to do this. So whoever can build the tallest freestanding structure, you win bragging rights. So the results are super intriguing. The people who have actually performed the worst are recent business school graduates. They tend to cheat, they get distracted, and they try to find that single perfect plan and then attempt to execute on that. And then they run out of time and they run into that crisis where the marshmallow causes that tower to collapse, which may sound a little familiar to some of you guys. So who performs well is actually kindergarten kids. First of all, none of the kids spend any time trying to become the next CEO of Spaghetti Inc. They, more importantly, they first start with the marshmallow and then build successive prototypes off of that. So they adopt an iterative and collaborative process and then get instant feedback on what does and doesn't work. So we all want to avoid that uh-oh moment where the marshmallow causes our tower to collapse, and I think we can really learn from our kindergarten colleagues. So the main message from all the fun is just transitioning from being a perfectionist mindset to an iterative mindset is essential to success. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
All right, again, just to review those 4 mindset shifts, we want to move to what the world actually needs or what the world actually wants and move away from projecting on them what we think they need or want. We want to move from falling in love with the solution, being tied to a solution, and remember that we want to fall in love with the problem. And that problem has multiple vantage points depending on the persona. And as we look at those, we can actually come up with even more innovative ideas. And then we want to move from just getting the right idea to getting as many ideas as possible, as Johnny shared with us. And then we want to move from perfection to iteration. These are some of the key mindset shifts that we can embrace as we use design thinking. So it's our hope today that whether you're a developer or a designer or a CEO or just the CEO of your own life, that you have gleaned some helpful mindset shift from this session today. And if you have any questions or you want to explore further, just pop it on the platform here on either side. You'll see some QR codes that you can scan, and that will lead you to some of the resources that inspired the talk today, some of the information that we referenced. And again, just grab us after the session and chat if you want to find out more. And we just want to say thank you to Trailhead and thank you for everyone here for showing up. Can we just acknowledge? I'm going to invite Cody, our distinguished technologist at In Time Tech. He's going to just wrap us up and share one last thought here. So,
Thank you so much. Can we have another round of applause for Bryan and team? All right. Thank you everybody for coming out, the first of our Creating Abundance ITT speaker series. So hopefully you guys got some information, some things you can take back and really bring back to folks you work with and just think about problems a little differently. So that's what we're up to. Definitely we're looking forward. We're going to do one of these each quarter. So if you got any insights, like how the conversation went today, what you got out of the material, or topics you'd like to see us bring forward, we're a technology company here in the Boise. We just love, technology is what we know, but we really are here to make a difference. And so hearing from you on anything that make a difference for you or people you know in the community, definitely share that with us. So maybe it's coming in and talk about how to partner with the technology company. Maybe it's, hey, how do you build a mobile app? Whatever those things may be, if you guys have ideas like that we could come in and share and make a difference for folks, we'd love to hear them. So come up, let myself know, or anybody else from the In Time Tech team with the In Time Tech gear on. But otherwise, thanks for taking the time here, and we'll see you guys in about 3 months. So thank you, Bryan and team.